Hi, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video, and this is a paid request for Carson. Actually, the last of the 3 he sent. So thank you for that. Again, sorry for the wait, but thank you for your patience and your generosity. Thank you. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough for an hour or full playthrough, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. Do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. Now, The Black Hole from 1979. This is a film I have seen before, and I liked it. And I still like it watching it today. This is one of those times that Disney tried to take a chance doing a live-action film that I would say it was a little bit darker than they usually worked on, a little bit more serious. And of course, Star Wars being a success, so every studio wanted to have their Star Wars, which is ironic since Disney does have Star Wars now. Although this is better than any Disney Star Wars film I've seen. Now, first off, the cast. I do like the cast. Robert Forster, may he rest in peace. Actually, all of them. Robert Forster, Anthony Perkins, Ernest Borgnine, Roddy McDowell, Slim Pickens. A lot of good people in the cast. And sadly, none of them are with us anymore. I'm not sure about the lady, and I think it's Joseph Bottoms was his name. I should have looked it up, but sadly a lot of people in this film are no longer with us. But yeah, I enjoyed their work. Robert Forster, great character actor, got a bit of revitalization from Jackie Brown with Tarantino. But even if it's films like The Banker, Alligator I love, a big reason is because of him. It was always great to see him in a movie. Even that Breaking Bad movie I saw, El Camino, he was good in that. So it was cool to see him as the lead in this sci-fi picture. And he gets to shoot laser guns and blow up robots. That was really cool to see. He is the leader of this crew called the Palomino. The ship's called the Palomino. And they're on this trip, this journey that's lasted hundreds of days. And amongst the crew, there's him. There's this other guy who's kind of his cohort. There's Anthony Perkins, who's more of the science guy, and I guess you could say maybe the unofficial leader of the group. You have this lady who has a bit of ESP to her as well. And then you have Ernest Borgnine, who's more of a journalist. And then they have this robot named Vincent, voiced by Roddy McDowell, which is easily one of my favorite parts of the film. Not only because I love Roddy McDowell ever since first seeing him back in the day in Fright Night, but it's a cool robot. They make it a bit cutesy with the eyes, but I'm sure in the universe it's done on purpose to make them seem less threatening. But I think for 1979, for the budget they had, they made the robot, work well, and I like that they give the robot a bit of character, where they really make it a life of its own, where he goes off on his own and meets another version of him, of his, I don't want to say race, but the type of robots made of his look and size. One called Bob, voiced by Slim Pickens. And then how there's other robots they could go up against, and they have like sharpshooting competitions, and they really make a story of their own, which makes the character come alive more, which I like and appreciate in this. And again, Vincent is one of my favorite parts of the movie. But other than Vincent, it's a 5-person crew, and they see that there's this bigger ship that's to this black hole. But they're wondering, well, how come the ship isn't being sucked in? How come the ship is still staying there neutral? They get close to investigate. The ship gets screwed up, but they're able to eventually dock with the ship, and they meet the only human on there, played by Maximilian Schell. And he tells a story about how the crew years ago left for Earth, and wait, you didn't hear from them, and I just made all these robots, and I'm doing research on the black hole, and I'm trying to make this I don't want to say drone, but this ship to go into the black hole and be able to do it and survive and see what's on the other side of the black hole. And I do like the way the film looks. I like the way that the ship looks, how expansive and big it is. I love the look of the robots, especially of the evil robot, Maximilian, where it has just this very dour, just intimidating look, which is the way it's shaped, and it's just this laser like beam visor, I should say, this visor look to it that of course is red, and the body is red, and definitely a very intimidating look. And then its hands are like a blender or like a claw, or claws that could go as fast as a blender. It'd be very dangerous. Could drill into stuff or into people if it feels like it. And even Maximilian Shells says, "Oh, we got David and Goliath," and just again that they have a whole thing between the robots, Vincent and I'm just going to call him Max for short, Vincent and Max. So Vincent's not scared and won't be intimidated, and the thing kind of will ready to bump into him, and Vincent will kind of rise up to go eyeball to eyeball. So I like that they took that opportunity and that time so that these are not just props, like they try to make them as actual characters. Max, even though it doesn't really have a voice, but just its demeanor and the way it moves, and you tell that Roddy McDowall's robot cares for the humans and has a history with them, and Roddy McDowall, I thought, did a great job voicing the character. They definitely put some money into the look of the film in terms of the sets and the way how Robert Forster will look around and see what looks like a funeral, a robot funeral, and he thinks, well, that's strange. Why would robots have a funeral? And yeah, I like the bits where Vincent, Roddy McDowall's going off on his own, finds again another robot that's similar to him but's broken down, named Bob, voiced by Slim Pickens. And there's these other robots who are kind of bullies, and they challenge Bob to a sharpshooting and bumps into him and wins. Then Vincent's like, "Fuck that shit, I'm gonna fuck you up. Sharpshooting's my game." And then he bumps into him and wins, and even bounces off the short circuit that asshole. And I love all that stuff. As a kid, seeing non-human entities being utilized as characters. I mean, maybe that's the kid part of me that grew up with Ninja Turtles and things of that nature, where that or Robot, Johnny Five, Short Circuit, that stuff, seeing non-humans as focal points or characters, just find it so intriguing to me. Where we could take something that's not real or something that's not of Earth and make it actual characteristics and personalities, and just gets more of the creative juices flowing. And I just appreciate that maybe more so than other people do. I don't know. I know I've spent a lot of time with it. And how, Roddy's character has a little bit of a cockiness, like you can't modify perfection, and also a bit of a badass, not willing to take shit from anybody, including the big Match robot or this robot here and such. So, which I mean, even Roddy in just regular roles, he didn't really get to play that type of character too much. So it's funny that the time he gets to play is when he's a robot, but it was cool. It felt like Roddy had a bit more to do to play with, even if it's just voice acting it. So that whole thing I liked. Granted, with the humans, one of my issues with which I do like the film, I think it's actually a pretty good, bit of underrated Disney sci-fi film. One of the issues I have with it is in this section, the humans don't really have a whole lot to do. They're kind of just sitting there and waiting for the shoe to fall, so to speak, for the shit to hit the fan, and you get into the third act where finally the excitement comes into play. But it's kind of them just listening to Maximilian Schell, kind of Anthony Perkins and the ESP girl, kind of listening to him and his theories on the black hole, and Robert Forster kind of wandering around, Ernest Borgnine seeing a robot and going, it's weird, he seemed human because I swear I saw it limping. And you kind of have to wait for, we have to wait for the characters to finally figure out what's going on. But it doesn't, it's just them kind of wandering around and or listening, and it's not a whole lot happening. So maybe that could affect the pacing a little bit. So you're kind of just waiting for the, like I said, you're waiting for something to happen. But when it does, it goes at a pretty quick pace until the end of the film. Bob helps tell Vincent, and then others figure out what's going on, what's happening. And then you get some nice action, some nice, humans shooting lasers at the robots. Vincent and Bob helping the humans and find the robots. There's a meteor storm that comes across that destroys a good chunk of the ship, and it becomes like a little bit of a disaster movie. Because I guess that's the thing with this film, to go back. The original idea for this film was to be a disaster movie in space. So the Towering Inferno, the Poseidon Adventure, that type of story, but in space. Which I thought, okay, that could have been cool, that could have been interesting. You saw a little bit of that with Gravity with Sandra Bullock, but I mean, that could be... I wonder if they've done that, now that I think about it. I'm sure they have, but I can't think of it. Like sometimes like it's a space station, and then the whole film is literally just surviving like a Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure situation, but it's in space. No, I can't think of it. Because usually it's okay, it's either alien or robot or like some other outside force, but no. Can't really think about that. In a way, the video game Alien Isolation is that, but it's also you got the androids and the xenomorph. But at times it is like this disaster movie where the ship is failing and there's all this stuff you have to do to keep the ship afloat, or at least long enough to hopefully have some kind of survival plans to happen. But yeah, I mean that. But I guess they felt, well, it's in space and there's only so much you can do, so you gotta add something, in this case the robots and such of that nature. Now, to get more into spoilers starting now, you come to find out that the human crew was not vacated. They all wanted to go back to Earth. Maximilian Schell's character did not. So eventually the humans were used as product to make these robots. Because Anthony Perkins rips one faceplate off, and you see that there's pretty much a dead, used human underneath. So, and Schell has been using this crew to build his plan to use this ship and go through the black hole. Which, I mean, in a weird way has the vaguest hints of... I don't know why this came to mind. The most vaguest hints of Event Horizon. Which, of course, much bloodier, gorier, and much later on. But, I don't know, something about that reminded me. I don't know why that film popped in my head when I'm watching this. And so the robot Matt don't like that this shit's been found out, so he unleashes his super claws and goes after Anthony Perkins, who tries to block with a book, but a book is not a good shield. And granted, it's a Disney film. I think it's rated probably PG or something, so they did what they could. You get the idea that he's been drilled and he's screaming and he falls, and then you see electric sparks, like he's being electrocuted as well. So they did as much as they could to sell the intensity of that scene. It's too bad because I like Anthony Perkins as an actor, of course Norman Bates from the Psycho films, but I mean pretty much he just had all he had to do was just kind of walk and talk and die. So he didn't have a whole lot to do, which is too bad, but it is what it is. And then pretty much is them trying to find a way to get the hell off the ship and figure out what to do next. Which is, the characters get together and they fight the robots and shoot through some of them or blow some of them up, and it becomes a bit of a chase movie. Which, I mean, you can't go wrong with Robert Forster and Roddy McDowell as a robot and such, shooting the shit out of robots, have them short circuit, shooting them in the face, blowing them up. Sometimes this is simple things that get you entertained and have fun in life. And I do like the environments of the ship. It makes it feel much bigger environment than I'm sure they shot for the film. Well, there's one shot in particular I like, but I'll wait to get to that. There's a bit where Robert Forster saves the girl, the ESP girl, because she's ready to be made into a robot. He comes in, guns ablazing, saves her like the big hero. Roddy McDowell's Vincent gets moments to shine, not just shooting, but even points where he smacked them in the face with its robot arms. There's a bit where the robots are up high, and Robert Forster has a plan. So the two robots, Bob and Vince, are on one side, and him and the others are on the other side, and they shoot them in the crossfire and blow them up. Or they shoot the scaffold and it falls apart, and some of them fall to the ground. Or they go through this like garden area, and they're shooting at the robots and blowing some of them up. And that's when the meteor shower starts happening. This is one bit where, granted, it's not Star Wars like, so you could tell it's the effects of the time. But there's a bit where they go on this kind of like a roller coaster. It's like a little transport to get from one part of the ship to the other. And granted, I mean, you tell that it's how they did with the screening, and they're not really actually there. So some may view it as very cheap, antiquated. It was definitely of its time. I think they did what they could of the time. I still like the idea of this like little roller coaster thing. Basically, like they're going around and they're swinging in a circle, and they're trying to move as they can. Maybe a little bit of Star Trek acting to try to move along with this roller coaster thing. And this is okay. This is where the disaster part of the original script is in. I just see the whole meteor shower thing. This seems like it would have been from that original disaster movie script. Maybe it wasn't, but that's what it seems like it. I'm like, okay, I just see like how this could work. There's one shot in particular that, granted, yes, in realistic terms, there's many times these characters should have been dead with the lack of air and the force of the space, thrust them into space, and when the meteors come, they're like red, glowing red, so that's not really how meteors really look, from what I understand. But as sci-fi fantasy escapism, as I look at this, it was fun to watch. And I still think it's a cool looking shot where it's a wide shot and you see a scaffold like this small. And you see the humans, like the first robots, and then the humans, they're kind of walking, and then they fall, and you see this big rolling thing in the back, red, glowing with fire, rolling towards them like this Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you see, like, they stop here, and they try and get up as it's going towards, and they run past, and there it goes for it. Actually, on, I guess, the Disney YouTube channel, they re-edited like an unofficial trailer to try to make it look like more of like a horror film, which was an interesting choice. And, that shot was prominent in there. So I just, even they knew that's a cool looking shot. Maybe my favorite shot in the movie was that. I don't know why. Just something about it stood out to me. Like, oh, that looks cool and dangerous. And I really liked that. More spoilers. Ernest Borgnine tries to leave without them. Of course, be more of the chicken shit character. But because of doing so, fucks himself up. It's your ass, Mr. Postman. Because Maximilian Schell and notice someone's escaping. They have lasers and they blow it up and crash it. And Robert Ford says, well, I guess should thank them, because if we were on that ship, we'd be dead too. They realize the only chance is to get to the probe. I think that's the best way to put it, the probe. They got into there. And that's where you get the Max robot, and the Bob Slim Pictures robot gets fucked up, and then becomes Roddy McDowall versus Max. And again, it's kind of cool to see like a robot versus robot fight battle duel. Because it's not something you see every day, especially back then. Because, I mean, I'm not talking about like human versus robot. I'm talking about like robot versus robot. Now, years later, you would see like a funny version of that with Johnny Five in Short Circuit, where he's fighting the other versions of him, but he's able to outwit them because he has more of a brain, more of a soul, more of a conscience than they do. But I don't know, just kind of cool, just to see robots, fighting each other, and Roddy McDowall's character is shooting and going backwards, shooting some more and outwitting it, and it grabs Roddy and tries to electrocute him. But I always kind of took it like when this head comes up and you see this green, as if, oh, you really pissed him off. And then Vincent opens up this saw and goes right into it. And you actually hear Max like scream, like, ah. It just made Vincent, like, really, Vincent is one of the more badass characters Roddy McDowall got to play. My favorite character he's played is Peter Vincent from Fright Night. But I would say this is definitely my favorite Roddy McDowall characters, and I'm a big Roddy McDowall fan, so that's a big kick for me. If you don't care about Roddy McDowall, it might not mean as much to you, but since I love the guy and I miss the guy, that was a big point of enjoyment I got out of it, was Roddy McDowall as Vincent. So again, I like the look and the scope of the film. There definitely was some ambition there. I like the action, fighting the robots, and these pistols that kind of have like two ends to it. So it's kind of hold it here, but there's like, you aim here and here. There's two ends, and they both shoot out lasers. So I thought that was kind of neat. So you get some fun robot action. You get a little bit of intensity as much as they could for Disney. I would say my only issues with the film, I would say it's 3 issues I have with it. And then the spoilers. 1, the musical score by John Barry. Like, John Barry's done a lot of... I mean, you just look up John Barry. He's done a lot of great stuff. I mean, James Bond. I mean, he did James Bond by this point, didn't he? Yeah, I mean, when was Dr. No? Was that 63? 62. Yeah, and this is 79. So he's done a bunch of James Bonds. Yeah, let me think about it. I don't know why I said this is 1979. I don't know why it's placed there. I'm like, oh, this is a 60s movie. No. I don't know why. I think because the same day I reviewed Doctor Who and the Daleks, and that's 1960. So for a split second, I'm thinking of Doctor Who, the 65. I'm like, no, I'm talking about this one. What the fuck? This is what you do when you try to review a bunch of videos today, but that's my own fault. So anyway, stupid bullshit tangent. Forgive me. But John Barry, like, I expected a bit more, and this just wasn't that great of a score. I kind of wish it had, like, James Horner. Like, you would hear... Okay, like the Battle Beyond the Stars, that store. Or if you want something a bit more haunting, I would say Jerry Goldsmith, but he was already busy because he did another sci-fi film that came out this year, Alien, which I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I kind of wish someone else had done the score, if this is how John Barry would approach it. I don't know who at the time, but like even the opening, I kind of wish it was a bit more of like maybe a creepier or a little bit more haunting score. Or and just his score didn't do much for me. So that's one issue I have with it. The second issue, I already mentioned it, kind of in the middle portion. Not a whole lot, other than the stuff around in Madao, which was cool, and the sharpshooting stuff, and meeting Slim Pickens, which I thought he did a good job as well. There's not a whole lot happen in the middle. It's like you're kind of waiting, like I said, until the shit hits the fan, then it really gets going, and I thought it was satisfying for the most part. I say the most part because my third issue is the ending of the film is kind of, spoilers. I know I keep saying that, it's annoying. Sorry about that. Robert Forster, the lady, his buddy, and Roddy McDowell robot, they get in. The four of them shoot out while Maximilian Schell's ship is going to the black hole. He's been trapped by some debris. The Match robot has been sawed up and screwed up. So he is floating in space and sees the robot, and I guess they merge together, and it looks like they're in hell. Cool looking shot. I like the shot of the Match robot kind of up high in the distance, and you pull back all these flames. It's very kind of a creepy shot. I do appreciate the look of it. Meanwhile, Robert Forster's crew, they go through like this crystal tunnel, and there's like an angel, a ghost, and then they come out of it after like all this, like trying to be very, very trippy. I don't know, they're trying to be like 2001: A Space Odyssey or what they were trying to do. And then they come out of it, and then they go to a planet with a lot of light, and is that supposed to be heaven? So I just, like, the idea is they went to heaven, and the bad guys went to hell, and that's what's past the black hole, is heaven and hell? I don't know, because they made this movie without an ending in the script. Like, they outright admitted, we started the movie, we didn't have an ending. We had over 100 days to shoot, so we figured by then we'll come up with an ending. How do you start making a fucking film without a goddamn ending? That's like the most important part of your fucking... I did maintain that the most important part of your fucking movie is the ending. It's the most important part. Because you can have a crappy movie, but if it's a really good third act, really good ending, and you're like, okay, I have to watch it again. Because you get the payoff. Or you have a movie that you're really enjoying, but if it has a really, really shitty ending, it can ruin the whole thing. It's like having a meal, and the sides, they're all good, but you get the actual meal, and not that good. You just feel the whole meal was shit. Doesn't matter how much you liked your sides, but because at the end turned out bad and left you with a bad taste in your mouth. Now, this at least is not a downbeat ending. At least it seems like our characters that we liked are safe and okay. And okay, it's trying to show something a bit trippy and a bit above and beyond. Again, whether it's supposed to be heaven or some alien, I don't know. I think they're going for the heaven health thing. But I wish there was more to the ending. I do. You could tell it's an ending that just came on the fly. I think that was a mistake. I remember when I first saw this film, I was confused as fuck and I did not understand what the fuck happened. I'll be honest, I did not understand what the fuck happened. I'm like, are they dead? I guess not, they're dead. What happened? What? Nowadays, I could deal with it. I could be fine with it, but that's an issue. Because it feels like almost anticlimactic. What I would have liked, at the very least, have the characters talk. Have them have a conversation. Have them talk a little bit about what happened. The people that are gone, like Anthony Perkins or even Ernest Borgnine if you want to, or Bob. There was a bit where Roddy McDowell saves, not Robert Forster, but the other guy. I don't know why I cannot remember his damn name. I keep wanting to say Joseph Bottoms. What's his name? I'm bad with names. I apologize. Yeah, Joseph Bottoms. Okay. I don't know why I kept forgetting about him. And because, like, there's not really any films I saw with him in it. I looked at his filmography. None of them I recognize, these films. So, and he did fine. But there's a point where Roddy McDowell saves him because Joseph Bottoms is drifting into space and Roddy saves him. And throughout the film, they have this kind of little jabbing back and forth vocally. But have a moment where he's like, hey, thanks for saving me. I know I gave you some crap and some gruff, but thanks for saving me. And he's like, maybe have Vincent go, you know what, you're not so bad for a human. Or anything for my favorite human. Well, what about me? Robert Forster to have some fun. It's like, hey, what about me? Because Robert Forster can do comedy with Alligator and other stuff, so just have a little bit of them talk and a little bit of the human factor at the end. It's like Star Trek the Motion Picture, where V'ger and the Decker, they join and everything's safe. And then you have a little bit of Kirk and Spock and McCoy talking, and McCoy going, been a long time since I've done, a doctor, helping with birth. I forget the exact way McCoy says it. And a little bit with Kirk and Spock, and like there's a little bit of dialogue there, which is nice, and okay, it gives a little bit of the character, or maybe they've learned, what they've noticed, what they've. It's funny because I think the same year, this came out the same year, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Which I do love. I love Star Trek the Motion Picture. I do quite love that film. I know a lot of people don't, but I always did. But I said a little bit more like just dialogue between I think that would have helped at least a little bit. And then wondering where they're at, and wondering where they're going. Just say something. A little bit of that human emotional ending. I think that could help. But the fact they say nothing just comes off as a bit weird to me. But so I wish the ending they would have worked on, the store, was someone else. And I mean, this film didn't do the best. I just think of like the I mean, I guess when you have I don't know exactly when this came out, but when you've had a film like Star Wars before that definitely is above in terms of special effects, and then around this time you have an Alien come out, and Alien just really shows the intensity and the horror and the direction just really spot on with Alien. Now, of course, you have Star Trek the Motion Picture and other stuff. The Black Hole, I guess, for some people, just looked a bit less than compared to those films. And yes, I would put those above this, yes. But I still think this still has its own merit. I still think this has its own worth. And I don't think this ever got a good release. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think this ever got like a good release of any sort. There's a some of them was a Blu-ray exclusive anniversary edition, but I guarantee there's nothing on this anniversary edition. Now people just showing their old DVDs. First time on Blu-ray. Well, actually, I guess no, it's not, because you can't buy on Amazon. So I don't know if this is part of their club. Yeah, it might have been like you had to be in their club. That stupid club. Yeah, Disney Movie Rewards Club. 2019 Blu-ray release. Yeah, Disney Movie Club. And no features. Like, fucking bullshit. So you have to be part of that stupid fucking club to get it at that point of time. No bonus features. What a bunch of horseshit. Fucking asshole. I'm sorry, I'm looking at someone, I guess. I guess there's a book that's a source guide making of the I don't know. I'm going off tangent. I'm just looking at a website for someone who's like a big fan of the movie, Steven Romano. So there you go. So sorry. You can't see it, just went on a tangent. But anyway, this is a film I do like, I do enjoy. I think it's maybe a tad underrated, and despite the issues I had with it, it was nice to revisit this. So, with that said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.